NBA DFS show with John Impemba and James Grande.
What is going on, FA Nation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Show. We are here for the Friday 10-game main slate over on DraftKings. If you play over on FanDuel, they decided to not include the 9 p.m. game over there with the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. So 9 games for you, 10 games here on DraftKings. James, you did the playbook today. You're the man with all the knowledge. You've been breaking it down. You've been doing the research. You've been keeping track of all the injury news that is coming through and news that hasn't yet come through. How you feeling about everything today, sir?
Let them know.
Did you get it?
We got it. It's going to be a slate because, there's been some news throughout the day. I think there's still a lot to go. Not too long ago, Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Kuminga were ruled out, but there's still a large list of ins and outs that we need to get to. LeBron, AD, Anthony Edwards. I know some of these names went their shoot around today, like Anthony Edwards went their shoot around. Cade went their shoot around. I saw Portland sent down Moses Brown to the G League. I don't know if that's indication that Ayton's going to be active, but there's always tea leaves, right? So, it's going to be a big slate at the end of the year that's going to have a lot of moving parts, and it just kind of is what it is, and you got to stay hip to everything that's going on.
What's up, Des? Happy to have you in the chat. Listen, Grant and I definitely appreciate all you hoop heads that still hang out with us. I know the MLB season has started. I know some decide to play baseball over basketball, but we're still here grinding out NBA content for you guys here for the next couple of weeks with our live streams and previews. So we appreciate you all definitely still in here supporting us. But make sure before 4 o'clock Eastern time now, Bender and Henry Wilson are going to be going live with their MLB DFS show. So you can spend basically 2 hours here with Fantasy Alarm on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube channel getting ready for your MLB slates and then your NBA slates right after it. And like Des says here, get those likes up early. Before we jump into it, I got to let everybody know of an awesome deal we got going on here. James, I saw you tweet about it earlier today. Right now, you can get 20% off the first month of our All-Pro package here when you use promo code Let's Win. You can scan that QR code there on the screen or go to fantasyalarm.com/win. Enter promo code Let's Win in the field, and you'll save 20% off the first month. That gets you access to all of our premium content, including our Discord, MLB DFS, NBA DFS, NHL DFS, NASCAR, MMA, PGA, you name it. We cover it here at Fantasy Alarm, and right now you get 20% off your first month when you use promo code Let's Win at checkout. So again, make sure you check that out. Scan the QR code or go to fantasyalarm.com/win. Use promo code Let's Win and get in the All-Pro action here with us over at Fantasy Alarm. James, as we mentioned, we got 10 games. We appreciate you all tuning in. Throw your questions in the chat. Get you guys going. Jerome, we appreciate you being here, man. We're doing content throughout the rest of the NBA season. We don't just leave you. I might double dip. You may have seen me on the morning MLB show, but I'm still here for you guys with the NBA content as well. Don't you worry about that. Donnie, happy to have you in there with us as well. Talk to me about this slate here. Obviously, 10 games. We talked about it this morning. Some pretty interesting matchups. Golden State, Charlotte. Charlotte's getting 13, 219 total there. LA versus Indiana, probably the game of the day. Pacers giving 4.5, a 245 game total. It feels like forever since we've seen a game total that high. Clippers, Magic getting 212.5. Detroit, Washington giving 4, 227.5 in that game. Chicago, Brooklyn getting 3, 214.5. Philly, Cleveland now giving 8. That's got a 211.5 total. Portland, Miami giving 2 touchdowns, 209.5 total there. Phoenix, OKC, Thunder getting 1.5, 228 total. Knicks, Spurs getting 9, 213. And then if you're on DraftKings, you get Minnesota versus Denver giving 7, 212.5 total there.
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously really good basketball in real life. I mean, Lakers, Indiana should be very fun. Clippers, Orlando should be very fun. Minnesota, Denver, probably one of the better games if fully healthy all year. But like, it's late season DFS, baby. I can't wait for Detroit, Washington to kick off at 7 p.m. John, real sickos know their league pass will be set to Washington, the Washington Wizards channel tonight. Yeah, I mean it's just an interesting slate, and it like it was interesting to see some shoot around reports today because SGA is doubtful.
Yeah,
Has not been ruled out. The chalk is on OKC and should be, right?
Yep.
He was doing workouts this morning. Like, I know it's just like an injured quad, and he's like talked about going through. He's been dealing with it for a while and stuff.
Yeah.
That would be that would be such a poetic curveball today for SGA to end up playing because they're like in the 8 p.m. window, and 6 games would have tipped off before that.
Right.
Then suddenly, like, you're just left scrambling to. So, I mean, it's an interesting slate.
You'll get the 705 SGA upgraded to questionable, right?
Dude. It's an interesting slate. Look like Cleveland could be getting healthier, but also could be losing Levert, and Darius Garland was downgraded to probable. So like, there's a lot to get into. Let's get into the position by position breakdown, and we'll, I'm sure, get news throughout the show as things break.
Yeah, 100% here. Starting off at the point guard position, as we talked about, SGA is questionable here for tonight's slate. So that gets us down into Brunson, Booker, Donnie Mitch is in, Halliburton, Maxey. When you're talking at the top half of these point guard position, like, where does that now rank for you?
So just for context, those who don't know, John's said that Donovan Mitchell is in. That has not been official, but it's like Underdog Fantasy put it out. I think 123 out of 124.
Only once has he not played.
122 of the last 123 times he has tweeted hashtag let him know he has played for the Cleveland Cavaliers. So that is why John has gotten ahead of the injury report. John is the injury report in this instance.
Push notifications on for Donovan Mitchell.
Push notifications on. So Donnie Mitch in.
I wonder what happened the day he didn't play, like the mayhem that probably occurred.
Right. I know.
For lineups.
True. Maybe he got iced in couldn't get to the stadium like the
Imagine if it's a no late swap slate and you get to let him know, so you plug him and then he doesn't play. Nightmare.
Imagine having no late swap. Ooh, nightmare. We've talked about Brunson extensively. It's not that the production's dropped off. It's just the need for extended run has dropped off lately. The Spurs have been better with Wemby at center, just defensively in general. I think they've been better overall. So I would presume this game could stay competitive. Jalen Brunson plays mid to upper 30s minutes. Then we're talking about the guy getting 50 plus. And this is a guy that was up near 10K, if you remember, and now he's 9,200 just because they're blowing teams out. So I'm definitely interested in Brunson. Book is fine. Guess the right night, he'll go off for you in a GPP. Really good pace up spot for Phoenix here. Donovan Mitchell is interesting since it's a nose, right? Like shouldn't be much cardio issues here. The downgrade to Karis LeVert obviously is appealing, even more appealing for Mitchell. Less people on the ball. We don't know what Garland's like long term for this game. Like, he's dealing with a sprain. We don't know how he's going to play through the sprain. We know Strus is kind of limited. So like, Mitchell can come back and just play full capacity minutes here. Interesting spot against Philly for sure. Halliburton, great game environment. Little weird lately for Tyrese Halliburton. Only 33 minutes in the Lakers game and a 295 point total. The other 2 games that he hasn't played in, like, handled the Clippers, didn't need them. Got handled by the Bulls, 31 minutes. Like, that's fine. But why only 33 minutes in the Lakers game? I don't love that. Actually, did he leave that game? I almost want to say
24th.
He left. I don't know. Anyways, don't love the minutes, but obviously the game environment's elite. And then it's just a bunch of like the whole rest of the AK tier for me is like tournament.
Sure. Going on into the mid-tier range, like again, big slate, so a lot of players. You got a favorite of the mid-tier?
Favorite of the mid-tier. I like Jordan Poole, 68 in tournaments. I think the matchup was tremendous, and we know Washington's playing their guys all the minutes. The Portland situation is incredibly interesting because we said it on the podcast. I've been playing Scoot Henderson. I know what's going to happen when I click Delano Ban. I'm already preparing myself because Scoot, not that Delano doesn't have elite numbers, sans all these guys. Scoot has better numbers. So I've chased the better numbers. And I've been with the chalk donkeys. And we've all failed. And Delano Banton's gone for 60 and 50 fantasy points. So you can play either of them. You can play Josh Giddey in this tier.
On this slate specifically, Banton is actually a little bit more rostered than Scoot. But when we get to shooting guard, I do have a question for you on a certain individual that is getting some rostership love here today.
Okay. I'm so like either Portland name for me is like highly intriguing. And then Josh Giddey for me, 6,300. I mean, the minutes have been great with or without SGA lately. That's been the obvious concern all year long. When is Josh Giddey going to play minutes? But the scoring is up. The peripherals are normal. He's a very good peripheral sheet guy.
Yep.
That sheet stuffer. Jeez,
there you go. Third highest rostered player on the slate tonight, by the way, Josh Giddey.
Yeah, not surprising. And again, that really big caveat would be SGA playing tonight after going through some like workouts. Right. So I would say the Portland guys in Giddey here in the 6K tier are very intriguing.
Yep, you got McBride at 58, going to play a billion minutes, whether Brunson is in for the full game or out. He's kind of locked in. You mentioned no Fultz for tonight. Does that just make you want Cole Anthony here at 4,500, or what are your feelings?
Yep, Cole Anthony for sure. I don't think we get 30-minute Cole Anthony with Gary Harris back. I think the bigger piece is Gary Harris being there. But because Gary Harris starts and like Fultz is not going to start here. I still think mid-20s minutes is definitely like attainable. The Clippers, John, have been the third worst defensive rated team since the All-Star break. So this is a really good spot for Orlando. It is the front end of a back-to-back for the Magic. So we're going to talk about someone later that you and I talk about more than probably any other player in the NBA. Sure. A little worried there, truthfully, with the front end of the back-to-back, but we'll see how that. But I think Cole Anthony's in for some big minutes on the front end of this back-to-back without.
Yeah, I agree with you. Anybody else point guard for you?
Anyone else at point guard? Yeah, I mean, I think there's like some interesting names. Vasilija Micic coming off 34 minutes, again, 33 fantasy points. Just very short rotation in Charlotte, 52. He's the most popular point guard over on FanDuel at 5,400 too. So he'd be in play. I'm interested in some TJ McConnell in tournaments in this game environment. He was really good against the Lakers the other day. I like Chris Paul without Jonathan Kuminga a little bit. Very like if you're multi-entering, I could see getting to Chris Paul. 1.1 fantasy points per minute without Kuminga this year. He's third on the team in that instance. The other two are forward centers, so we can take a guess at who they are. But Chris Paul third. Well, sans Curry, right? Because we just put Curry default Curry. I think the more interesting is that Chris Paul's third on the list after Curry. So those would be the other names. Casey Wallace is getting a lot of ownership again. Probably not going to dip my toes back into that water, just given how low his floor is.
Not only that, is because there's also another Thunder that is getting some love here today. Sure. Shooting guard position again, top tier. Anthony Edwards, we know it's questionable in this game. Booker, Mitchell, we've talked about. George, 8,100, had a huge day the other day. Again, we give our flowers to our guy Anthony that pops in chat every now and again. Anthony, if you're in here again, hopefully you played Paul George. You were dead on with the Maxey George stack in that one. But I keep going down to this mid-tier range of me personally. Vassell, DiVincenzo. I like Cam Thomas even in a slow pace down matchup. I think all of those guys are quite interesting.
Yeah, you can get to any of those names. I also didn't find myself really spending up all too much. Think there's obviously a case to play any of them because they're elite basketball players, but um, yeah, I like DiVincenzo, big pace up spotter for the Knicks. Obviously, kind of capped his minutes in a 40-point win, 33 minutes last game. Like, what are you going to do? He's going to play 40 in a competitive setting.
Mhm.
Cam Thomas, we saw just a, you know, professional bucket scorer, professional bucket maker. Like all the terms you can use about Cam Thomas scoring the basketball is what
Yeah.
Cam Thomas does. So for sure, Jordan Poole, throw him in the mix. Some of the multi-position eligible guys, and then I think things really start getting interesting, like sub 6K, because Miles McBride is 58. He'd be a highly intriguing option. He's gonna play 48 minutes. If this game's at all competitive, it's 48. It's not like low 40s. It's just every minute
Yep.
possible. And then the real fun begins here at the shooting guard position.
Where are you
Like,
going?
well,
You
I
saw
thought
where ownership is, right?
I thought you were gonna. I thought yeah, I was gonna have you.
Okay,
tee
so
me up.
Isaiah Joe obviously getting some love,
Yep.
but so is Ryan Rupert. Is
Ryan Rupert.
Ryan
Yeah.
Rupert
Yes.
played 39 minutes against Atlanta.
Yes.
He is getting like almost 30% rostership here tonight.
Yeah. He actually made my playbook today.
Yeah.
No Tumani Kamara. And the reluctance to apparently play Chris Murray or give others opportunity, right? Like they barely played Chris Murray last game. They played Banton, they played Scoot, they started Repair again for like the third straight game. And there's no reason to think that's not going to continue to happen. I mean, again, he started, played all the minutes. 2 for 6 shooting is not great. 3 for 8 shooting the game before, not great. But he's been like fairly decent from a fantasy point per minute perspective when he's been extended. And he's 3,400 with an opportunity to play 40 minutes. I think that's the most important part here. And I think that's almost where I'd give an edge to Repair over Isaiah Joe. I just think Repair has an infinite higher minute ceiling. Where like Isaiah Joe, we talked about, yes, he played 33 minutes the other day in overtime, right?
Yeah.
There was also a lot of external factors. Chet Holmgren could not stay out of foul trouble. Cason Wallace was god awful in that game. What if Cason Wallace makes shots? What if Chet Holmgren isn't in foul trouble? Is Isaiah Joe playing essentially 28 regulation minutes again, right? Where Ryan Repair, now without another wing, and then this is granted, I would say, we're all assuming Matisse Thybulle is ruled out again because like he hasn't officially been ruled out. But assuming he's ruled out, assuming Jeremy Grant's ruled out, like they just don't have the depth. And if you're going to tell me Ryan Repair is going to approach 40 minutes at 3,400, it's a great value. Like it just is because he's a rookie. They're giving him the opportunity. You don't need a lot at 3,400 to get there in 40 minutes, unless you Tony Snell it. Like you're gonna stumble into at least 5x return.
I don't disagree with you. I think it's more like you're trying to figure out what's going to play out, right? The minutes or the volume, because we know what Isaiah Joe is as an offensive player, and if he ends up getting the 30 minutes again, or even 25 minutes here, right? Because we did that exercise last night. We looked at what he was basically on pace to play no matter what in that game. You know, if it wasn't for, you know, the way that rotation played out, like he was getting 24, 25 minutes. So if you're getting 24, 25 minutes out of Isaiah Joe, knowing that he's, you know, flamethrower versus Repair playing 35 to 40, do you still take the minutes or do you take the guy that has the track record of scoring?
I mean, you probably take the higher usage guy, but that is also another contingency. Like it's another, like, I'm not saying Isaiah Joe's a very good shooter. He's a very good scorer when given opportunity. He also hasn't always played, right? Like he's been a bench guy for this team. He was a bench guy for Philly before this and got like just sent to the wayside. So I'm just saying, like, I think just given the possibility of Rupert playing 40 minutes is enough for me to like jump all in there versus and I might play both. You could play Isaiah Joe. Isaiah Joe has better eligibility. He's shooting guard small forward,
Sure.
right?
And I was gonna say it all comes down to the fact that you might just play both, right?
Yeah.
You might just find yourself plugging both guys in there. And then a lot of the guys we've talked about all have the dual positional eligibility for the shooting guard, point guard position. So many of the players we discussed at point guard, we might as well also just plug in at shooting guard as well. Like you mentioned McBride, we've talked about Banton and Scoot and all those guys. Cole Anthony has dual positional eligibility. On DraftKings, you have a point guard, a shooting guard, a guard, and a util. So plenty of ways to get multiple of those guys into your lineups here tonight. Again, guys, we appreciate all of your support here. If you haven't already, hit the like button there. It's a free way to support the channel. Helps us with that YouTube algorithm boost as well. Get some more views in here. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. Donnie in here saying he's ready for a pool party and a defensive gem from Dort.
Oh, no.
So we'll see. We'll see where that comes from here. And if you haven't already become a member of the Fantasy Storm family right now, we got a discount, 20% off the first month. Use promo code Let's Win. Go to fantasystorm.com/win. Scan the QR code there. Come join us. 20% off that first month of your all-pro subscription. Moving on over to the small forward position. We talked about LeBron James last night. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, on the injury report. Do we think both play? What's your take on this one?
My opinion is they're going to play, but that's just kind of my outlook on things.
Mm-hmm.
Like until they're ruled out, I think they're going to play. Like Davis sat on the second leg of a back-to-back after playing 54 of 58 possible minutes. Like there's good reason why, an oft-injured player would sit on the second leg. Now, kudos to Anthony Davis, that oft-injured tag, maybe by the wayside after this year. Like he's going to qualify for basically every single award possible because he's going to play over. I think he already hit 65 games.
Yeah.
So kudos to Davis for that. But I think Davis, LeBron play. They need to win. Everyone, you hear Draymond Green saying it on his podcast, like I can't get thrown out. We need to win games,
right?
Because everyone can see what Houston's doing. Like one slide in this rest of the season, and Houston's just like, hey, by the way, just won 18 in a row to get into the playoffs.
Yeah.
Like, so I think they play, but we'll have to see.
You know what? Outside of legitimate injury from Joel Embiid, I would say the games played thing had worked.
Yes,
we got like a full season on Kawhi Leonard.
Dude, back-to-backs, dude. Back-to-backs and all. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So I'm thinking I'm thinking that the games played requirements to qualify for these awards actually had an impact, because again, outside of I guess Butler and Embiid with a legitimate injury and Butler film and music videos that that we haven't had too many guys actually just sit out for no reason whatsoever.
There has been some pushback. I listened to Tyrese Halliburton talk about it. Remember when he rushed back and he played those minutes and then he suddenly re-aggravated his injury?
Sure.
He's talked about it saying he felt rushed because, the season he was having, he was trending towards what? Maybe first team All-NBA, maybe second team All-NBA, and like accolade upon accolade. So he's like, shoot, I need to get back, get to 65 games, rush back, re-aggravate it. And he's talked about it. He's kind of.
Well, I would also say that's one, that's the team.
Right.
Two,
agreed.
That's the player.
Agreed. I'm just saying, I think it has as well. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, for sure.
I do think it.
If Halliburton's worried about his contract incentives and he gets legitimately hurt, the team should also be like, yeah, well, we kind of need you to. What's your contract incentive to win an NBA championship? There's probably some money there. All right, so we have the small forward position here. We talked obviously at LeBron. A lot of these guys have dual positional eligibility. We keep kind of jumping into the Knicks because we know they're in for just a billion minutes. So like Hart is here, DiVincenzo is here. We've also played a lot of Denny of late. He's been getting a boatload of minutes. He's got a great matchup against Detroit. Like if you're not sort of paying up, aren't you kind of settling into this like 7K tier?
Yeah. For good reason, we keep jumping into the Knicks, right? It is just hard. We've said it. Opportunity is there, right? The opportunity to play minutes. what it comes down to. Just updated the ownership, by the way, over at fantasyalarm.com for all those to check out. Yeah, I would say just into the 7K tier, Josh Hart, Denny Avdia, Dante DiVincenzo, who we've already talked about, would be the three next names for me. I do think it's a little bit interesting that Franz Wagner is 6,500. Like, I know he was 64 last slate. I know he was bad. That game in Golden State, it was such a weird game. He was kind of like limited, and that's kind of what the minutes. I'm wondering if Orlando is just like, we have so much depth, we can just get everyone to the playoffs by like not overworking them, and then we'll unleash. Because like, there's no reason Franz Wagner in his like third season in the NBA is now like suddenly limited, right? Every game. Played 35 against the Kings. I do think that's an option. 35 minutes could be something somewhat interesting. The next name I'd throw at you, John, and let me know what you think. Klay Thompson, 5,700. I know we didn't talk about him at shooting guard.
Sure.
No Jonathan Kuminga. Back in the starting lineup. I kind of like the spot. I mean, we're going to get to the front court members that I think are very appealing.
Yeah, getting some questions. Dez obviously has one on Wiggins here. So we'll talk Golden State.
But Wiggins and Klay are about the same on a fantasy point per minute scale. Klay has higher usage rate. Wiggins is cheaper.
Yeah.
I think Klay has better eligibility. I don't think he has better eligibility. Shooting guard, small forward.
Right.
But I don't hate the Wiggins play because we're just locked into 30 minutes here without Kuminga. Like,
and he has more paths to production, right? Like 2 blocks in each of the last 2 games, an assist, rebounds. Klay, mostly if he's not scoring, right, for fantasy points. So
yes.
I think that there's I kind of trend down towards Wiggins myself at 5K if I had to pick one, just taking the money savings there.
Yeah, I mean, it's good savings. Yeah. I think there should be 30 minutes regardless, even with Draymond back. There's no Kuminga. That's 30 minutes and a lot of shot opportunities on the table.
Yeah. And a good, obviously, Draymond being a good facilitator, I think helps
if he doesn't get ejected.
True. With LeVert probably not playing, any Strus interest at 55? I mean, he was playing a lot of minutes. There should be a build-up for him here. I know Mitchell's back, but I don't know. Just, peace.
I'll pass.
Okay. Under 5K?
Under 5K, I mean, I do think Dort is a little bit interesting. He played the minutes. He did take 10 shots, which is kind of unlike Lou Dort. If he makes 4 of 10, and if those are threes, I mean, we're talking about a guy who has 25 fantasy points, right? I don't hate the Lou Dort play. Obviously, Justin Champagnie is interesting if Keldon Johnson sits. We don't know the status of Keldon Johnson yet, but that would be a little bit interesting. Anyone else? Do I have anyone else?
We just got the Lakers update that they're both still a game time decision for LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They are a 7:00 roster lock though, so we will have that starting lineup before we do lock into things here.
I don't think I have any interest in really anyone else. I guess it's worth noting Gary Payton's played like 19 and 24 minutes in 2 of the last 3 games. It's not like my favorite play. Also, you'll get a kick out of this. Jonathan Isaac on FanDuel is listed as a small forward, power forward.
I mean, he was a small forward when he came into the league, and then he grew forward. Just kind of like Giannis did. Giannis drafted at 6'9". Yeah. Next offseason, he's 40 pounds heavier and 5 inches taller. So,
dude, the weight gain that Giannis Antetokounmpo put on is one of the most puzzling.
His NBA jersey literally didn't fit on him as a rookie. It was so baggy hanging off of him, and then all of a sudden he absorbed his other brother, I think. There's another
Kostas. Yeah, Kostas.
Kostas that doesn't exist anymore. He's just inside Giannis. Power forward. KD at 93. He was the one that popped off last time. Now he's got to return to OKC. I love Narratus, and he's a spiteful SOB, so I could see him wanting to show out here against the Thunder?
Yeah, I like Kitty. It's just take a stab at one of the Phoenix guys and hope you're right.
Sure. Kuzma at 8,300 is a great price and a great matchup.
Yeah, love Kuzma. He's one of my favorite plays of the day, mid-tier. I mean, he's just really good at basically everything, especially for bad teams. So
Agreed.
he's gonna play as many minutes as he can handle here.
I remember our guy Fensty, shout out to him, used to complain that he was like a stand in the corner guy for the Lakers. It's like that's what they needed him. Well, that's what they told him to do. They had LeBron and AD. They didn't need him to do more.
I know.
He goes to Washington and is just the complete player that he always wanted him to be. So shout out to Fensty there on seeing and believing what Kuzma could have been. Siakam there at $8,100 as well in the mid tier, but Jalen Williams is your highest roster player tonight. We were right on him last time. Usage rate highest on the team. It did help that Chet fouled out in 18 minutes.
Sure.
If he doesn't foul out in 18 minutes, maybe there isn't as much for Jalen, but this is a spot where we're expecting them to need both these guys in this spot against Phoenix.
I mean, dude, we play Jalen with SGA in the lineup, right. At like this price, basically like a couple $100 less. I complain to you every slate. I'm like, why is Jalen Williams still under 7K? And that's with SGA. And now he's only $500 more without him, potentially. Mm-hmm. I guess potentially. He's still not confirmed.
I think.
Yeah, we think. So after last game, I talked about it. Isaiah Joe had the biggest usage bump. That is no longer the case, John. It is now Jalen Williams, 5.9% usage bump. I don't think that's surprising. After what he did last game, 23 shots, 30% usage rate, 1.2 fantasy points per minute. That gap has closed. I think you said it. You're like, I don't think Chet still does lead the team, and I think Chet is a very interesting talking point today because nobody's playing Chet Holmgren today.
No, you don't know why nobody's playing Chet Holmgren because last time Yusuf Nurkic went for 31 rebounds.
Hey, I'm just saying no one's playing him. But Jalen Williams up to 1.2 fantasy points per minute after that big fantasy performance last time. I think it's you plug and you move on.
Do you go to Draymond here and a bounce back at 6K? It's the right spot. Do you think that Charlotte just throws Grant Williams on Draymond Green to see who can get thrown out first?
True, dude. I didn't think about this. Didn't Draymond talk about the Luka situation on his pod and like call him a clown?
Probably. I know these two have history, obviously going back to the finals.
True.
Grant Williams was basically trying to be Draymond in that series.
Yeah, I think Draymond on his podcast commented after that whole Luka story came out and called him a clown, which wouldn't, be at all surprising. Or maybe I'm just thinking of Draymond just calling him a clown in general because that's what he does.
Probably. There's all these things on. I just typed out
Draymond Green, Grant Williams.
Yeah, Draymond Green's Grant Williams. Draymond Green calls out ex-Mav Grant Williams.
Yeah,
his personality likely led to him getting dealt. He calls him a fake tough guy. He talks too much.
Yep, that's what it was. That's what it was. Because the whole report was that he was talking smack to the whole team, and then Luka, and Luka was just like listening and being like, "All right, dude, I'm just gonna give you the business."
So, anyways, you have two of the biggest clowns in the NBA.
So they're getting thrown out. So they're getting ejected. So they're getting ejected tonight. Back-to-back games.
Over under on tears from Steph Curry tonight. What do you got?
If you, all over, all over. So I like the other likely front court member starting in Golden State today. That we will get to at the center position. TJD, yeah. But I'm definitely interested in Draymond. I mentioned that Chris Paul was third in usage or in fantasy points per minute. Draymond is second, 1.1.
Dude, Draymond's been on the floor this year. He's been really good for that.
He's been a very good. This has been, and he hasn't shot the ball well lately, but this has been his best year shooting threes like his whole career.
Yeah.
Because he was 40% before. Dude, he was 40 before this like terrible second half shooting so far. So yes, I do have interest in Draymond. Don't play him in cash. You cannot trust him in cash. It's a tournament only play because like obviously he's not going to get ejected every game. The guy's played 47 games.
If he gets ejected in back-to-back games,
he might retire.
He might suspend him.
Yeah, rest of the year, remainder of the year.
Yeah, because that's just listen. He shouldn't have been. The fact that he literally couldn't stop talking after Paolo Banchero just bodied him in that game. I think he was more embarrassed than really anything else in that situation. But
did you see Steve Kerr was just like, yeah, he deserved to be when your coach is like, no, yeah, he deserved to get thrown out. Like,
yeah, dude, 3 minutes into the game, he couldn't get over the fact that Banchero, who's an all-star and maybe future MVP of the league, just moved him out of the way and dunked on him. Like
he didn't want to play it back to back. Let's just get that out of the way.
All right, Jovic is here at 44. Metu, if he's starting at 46, maybe if you have any interest. So where are you with the value power forwards here? Isaac's 4K.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first two are a little bit interesting, especially if Metu starts. Jovic, I'm not sure. Kevin Love's back.
Okay.
So I'm a little uncertain what the minutes are going to look like for Jovic. I expect him to start, but this is the situation where there's a large range of outcomes where I feel like when they're without Kevin Love and without some guys, there's less range of outcome. As long as he doesn't get thrown out of a game or they blow someone out. I think Jonathan Isaac, I'm interested, but I'm less interested as I realized today was a front end of a back-to-back. Because since being extended, we have not necessarily seen Jonathan Isaac. So the last back-to-back in February that he played, right? He hasn't played a back-to-back this month. He played a back-to-back in February. He played the front end 20 minutes. The second end was 2 minutes. I'm just the back-to-back before that, 15 minutes each. I don't they're so cautious with this dude.
Yeah.
Back-to-back in January, John. And maybe this is leading to something that front ends have been better. Front end in 28th and 29th played 23 minutes on the front end, 8 on the back end. There's a trend.
And there's no back-to-backs in the playoffs. So we don't have to.
Right, which we don't have to worry about. But they need to get him to the playoffs.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's not like they need to ramp him up on back-to-backs to make sure that he's good to go for a grind. They won't have a back-to-back. I don't think maybe if they go 6 or 7, maybe there's a back-to-back there if I remember correctly. But
true. I don't think they'll work. I don't think they will. So I don't think they will need play-in tournament. I think they have a better chance at the 2 seed. I think.
Sure.
There are 3 games up on the Heat, so anything's possible.
Sure.
I would say the trend has been better for Isaac on front ends of back-to-backs where he's played more, but we also saw that random back-to-back where he was just removed from the game last week and then didn't play the second leg of the back-to-back. And you're we didn't know about this?
Right.
Was there if I told you Jonathan Isaac were to play 20 minutes tonight, would you be comfortable with that? Or would you need the 23-24?
No, I mean, we were playing him when he was playing 18 to 20 minutes. So
I know. I'm just not. I'm a little on the fence here because I want to get the Jonathan. If we get the Jonathan Isaac where he plays 23-24 like he did the last 2 games, and there's obviously a crazy ceiling. And if there's not,
it's probably a no-go for me at this point, I think.
Because the back-to-back?
Yeah, because it's just you don't know. Why throw him in there and have the 8-minute game? Again, you and I love the player. There's a little bit of a bias to that. We also think he's a really good player, and there's a ridiculous potential for him. But we also know that, hey, this is great this year that we're getting this, because next year they might take the reins off of him. He might be just playing nightly 25. Maybe he goes to a different team starting or whatever. But yeah, it's probably not worth the risk, knowing that he could just be limited in this spot. Moving on over to the center position.
We can talk about them here. They're both. I got 2 names that are both power forward center eligible.
All right, we'll talk about center then. The Joker's 12K, Minnesota here. You spending up at center today? What's your? Because we know what the chalk is. The chalk of the day is Marvin Bagley. He is the highest rostered player on the entire slate. So, he's all the way down here, 47, 48. So
we knew that.
Right? Highest rostered player on the slate, 100%. We knew it was going to be Marvin Bagley without Rashawn Holmes. Revenge game, Detroit, the whole shebang here. Bagley in a great spot. That said, where else are you going at center tonight?
So I do think the spend ups are interesting because you just said it. 1/3 of the ownership at center is going to one guy tonight. And then everyone else is single digit ownership. Jokic could be without Murray. has dominated Rudy Gobert throughout his whole career.
Mm-hmm.
Victor Wembanyama, nobody's playing because I don't think people want to play him against the Knicks. I don't think it matters when Victor Wembanyama is doing Victor Wembanyama things, right? Because not that what is Josh Hart going to do when he drives the lane? What is Jalen Brunson going to do? Jalen Brunson constantly attacks the rim, right? There's a lot of block opportunity for Wemby tonight.
When the 6'4" Precious Achiuwa is out there.
Dude, I mean, yes, Wemby and tournaments always. Dude, Anthony Davis in this spot last week with LeBron was amazing. 40 minutes, 36, 16, 3, 1, and 2. You could play Davis at multiple positions.
Yeah.
If Anthony Davis, dude, I don't even see Anthony Davis' name on the ownership list.
Right.
Am I missing it? Is it not uploaded?
No one's playing.
Hello?
No one's playing him.
No, 16%. So Anthony Davis is a great tournament play.
Right.
Just given the ceiling. So I think you could spend up on any of the top centers. And
when I say I know he's playing them, he's the 4th highest rostered center, right? Everybody's or guys at center eligibility tonight. So, he is the highest spend up rostered center on the slate, but most people are playing the value. So there you're getting the leverage. We're also talking about a guy that on DraftKings has dual positional eligibility. So you think maybe they would be plugging him in a power forward, right? Because they can do it and the ownership would have been there. It's not. So you can definitely get some nice leverage on AD here today.
Yeah. So I like any of the top options. And the next name, I mentioned it. I am a little bit intrigued by Chet Holmgren. Look, I completely understand what you said. Nurkic, tough matchup, potentially, if Nurkic plays. I think you and I both said on the show, we think he's going to play. He had 30 rebounds the last time they faced off.
Yeah.
Not like Chet was in foul trouble in that game. He played full allotment of minutes, 32 minutes. Wasn't great, 14-9. But he's still the team leader in fantasy points per minute without SGA this year, 1.26.
Yeah.
He still has a 2% usage bump up to 24% without SGA. And nobody's playing him. I think it's one of those situations where we didn't have the other day a Marvin Bagley on the slate. So we didn't run into this situation where, this center is clearing away just a better play because he's $3,000 cheaper. And Chet doesn't have multi-position eligibility. So, now you're just locking 2 centers in, and that makes things your lineup construction is a little, murky. But, Chet has a 60-point fantasy ceiling. And it's not like his price has gone down since SGA's exited the lineup.
Right.
And the field is off him because of let's face it, a game that he fouled out in 18 minutes. This isn't an oft foul happy player. He hadn't had more than 3 fouls in a game since February 27th before that, right? So I'm not saying he can't get in foul trouble. I'm not saying second leg of a back-to-back, no SGA. That was tough for, I think, going from the road back home. I don't know. There's a lot of factors in that, but he leads them in fantasy points per minute and is right up there with usage rate. And nobody wants him, but everyone wanted him the other day on the second leg of a back-to-back. So I'm just saying, don't be surprised. You don't have to play Chet because I think there's plenty of guys that look similar at 7,300 just across the board that you could play a util or whatever.
Yeah.
But don't be surprised if he goes 50 plus and you're like, oh, I wanted this Chet last slate. Well, recency bias can do that, right? Where you're on a guy last slate, they foul out, they terrible, whatever, and then you're off them, and then it's like, oh, right, that guy is the real player, not the one who just randomly got in foul trouble last game. So just some strategy talk on Chet Holmgren.
Our guy Samson asked us about Jabari Walker a little bit earlier. Now he's asking about Jalen Duran here. Do both those guys have center eligibility? I talk a lot about Jalen Duran. Again, I think this is a great spot for him. The reasons that the minutes have kind of been what they were lately have been blowouts. They just haven't been in competitive games. He played 29 minutes in a competitive game against Miami. He had 11 and 10 in that. You'd like to see maybe a little bit better. production, but he played 34 the game prior to that. So, was there all of a sudden a change over the last 4 games, or was it just more so like blowouts in some of these situations here? And I think this is a great spot if this game can stay competitive for Duren, to give us one of those big nights out of him.
Yeah, and this is the toilet bowl. I mean, Detroit's 2 games back of Washington. They're currently the worst team in the NBA.
Yeah.
Chasing Washington. Who wants to be the worst team in the NBA? I don't think
there's no advantage anymore. They have the same odds at number 1 pick. So
right. So maybe we do see full compet. And you look, Jalen Duren has dominated Washington this year. 44 fantasy points, almost 45 fantasy points per game, 17 rebounds across 3 matchups. It's been a great matchup for centers all year. I'm not saying you're wrong. I've said the same thing I've said for a week and a half, 2 weeks, 3 weeks now. I feel it feels weird with Detroit, just with the minutes in general, but a lot of them have been blowouts.
Yep. This game's only like a 3.5 point spread, so it feels like we could get a bit more competitive.
Like I told you, Detroit, Washington, baby. Fired up on League Pass tonight. It's a banger.
It's going to be something. It's going to be something here. Where else are you going at center as you kind of work your way down? You mentioned TJD earlier, 5,500, played 33 minutes in that game, 34 fantasy points. Centers against Charlotte, we've been saying it for a decade. It's been the matchup. Doesn't matter who Charlotte brings in to play the 5. They all can't play defense.
Things were seemingly getting better, and then Mark Williams' back just exploded.
Dude, how bad is that injury? I mean,
it has to be. It has to be terrible. So I just assume. I mean, he's gonna start, right? That's what we assume with Kuminga. He played 33 minutes, partly due to Kuminga, partly due to the Draymond. I think probably high 20s. Maybe he touches 30 if there's no Draymond, but I would say high 20s minutes is probably
kind of crazy how they just iced Kevin Looney out after like 3 years of basically being their starting center, right? Like just
yep. He'll be in the mix again for like a few minutes here and there without Kuminga, but yeah, it is. I mean, TJD is just the better player at this point. So I think that's definitely a route I'd go. There, Jabari Walker was the guy I wanted to talk about when we talked at the end of power forward. With Toumani Camara out, as long as DeAndre Ayton's out, I assume Jabari Walker would be the starter.
Yeah.
Again, there's a lot of things that break right. Jeremy Grant likely going to be ruled out. Matisse Thybulle is questionable. He likely gets ruled out. Then Ayton's out. I would assume this regardless. I would assume Jabari Walker is the starting power forward almost regardless of DeAndre Ayton's status. I would just say no Ayton. I feel better about Jabari Walker's ceiling. If Jabari Walker is starting, I think he's just surefire must play 4,300. I know it's not the best spot against Miami, but he's a very solid fantasy point per minute guy. So I really like him at 4,300. And then the last guy I wanted to bring up was Trendon Watford, who I don't really know like what the role, why we've remained with the role for Trendon Watford. Johnny's 28% projected tonight. And I know like, so they're healthy-ish. No Dennis Smith. There's no Cam Johnson. But like they played Claxton 37 minutes last game. They played Dorian Finney-Smith 37 minutes last game. They gave Noah Clowney run.
Yep.
They gave Aaron Sharp run. Where did like Lonnie Walker completely iced? He's gone. He's dead. Brooklyn's going huge. Like they're doing the Markkanen 3 lineup essentially with Trendon Watford out there. I think it's a viable punt if you wanted to get there. Just given how good, and I've said it to you a couple times, given how good he is.
If they're going double big, don't we just do this?
So they're in theory, they're going double big. You could do that. I mean,
he's been a monster.
He has been
when they go double big.
He's been a freak. Brooklyn's like triple bigging because Sharp, Clowney, Watford all played double-digit minutes in each of the last 2 games, right? So, like, on top of Claxton playing big minutes, and on top of Finney Smith playing big minutes, and on top of him, like all these guys playing big minutes, I think Trendon Watford at 31 does warrant a look. 21 minutes, 26 fantasy points. 19 minutes, 23 fantasy points the last 2 games. Like,
if you get the Drummond starting lineup tonight, where does Drummond rank for you at 4,400 among the value plays on the slate?
So only reason I'd say he doesn't start is because they still are starting Dorian Finney-Smith at power forward. If that were to happen and we got the Drummond starting lineup, because Donovan's just like, all right, I'll put Drummond like stand in the corner against Finney-Smith, right? He'd be up. I mean, he'd
be right up there, right?
He would just have to be.
He would have 10x upside at 4,400 if he was starting.
Yes, I would say him or Bagley for you.
If Drummond is starting, I don't know. That's close.
$400 less than Bagley. Like, again, I don't think
he starts. You're probably still playing Bagley. Well, I'm saying if they both start, we have to do the scenario of him actually starting. Probably still play Bagley, but I mean, dude, this is a guy we talk about it every time.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He gave you 40 fantasy points in 18 minutes the other day.
It's crazy. No, it's crazy. It's crazy.
So, like, if he started, you'd. I mean,
dude, there's a legit chance you see Andre Drummond play the 24 Houston minutes because, like, just the way that Brooklyn's like, and you can go look on Popcorn Machine. I mean, dude, all these guys that Brooklyn are playing are like 6'10" or bigger. Like, it's now Watford's athletic. He's shooting threes. We know Finney-Smith is a smaller power forward, which is
why they play Vucevic basically as the 4 in this scenario because Vuk is the one that plays the perimeter.
True. Dude, it is a very because like in any scenario, you're getting mid-teens minutes from Drummond, right? Like that's guaranteed. Like they're not changing their routine.
They're too big for him to play less than that, right?
And then there's a ceiling into the 20s. Like neither of us are like sitting here saying like go out and definitely play Andre Drummond, but like because another guy who's just it's center only. Like he's eating into your Bagley or he's eating into like your positional flexibility.
You're utiling, you know?
Yeah, 7:30. I mean, 7:30 start, right? And Bagley's at 7. So like your flexibility's dead at that point. But like as a Bagley pivot, if you're just building a whole bunch of lineups, like IC3 has 20 lineups. I know he wants to play Bulls anyway. Play some Drummond, you know? But yeah, I do think he's getting 0.6%, John. So about 2 people in the big tournaments understand that Andre Drummond could break a slate out there.
Again, he played 18 minutes the other day in a normal rotation and went for 39 fantasy points.
His price has gone down $400 since going 32 and 39 fantasy points.
And it's a pace up spot for them.
Pace up spot come and against a team that's just like playing like they're just playing they're just playing massive.
You're making 10 lineups tonight. How many Drummonds are now in there?
How many Drummonds?
I think that's where I'm at. I think he's in 2 of 10 of mine.
I'd probably go 1 because I'd probably have like variations of Bagley, Drummond, TJD, and then I don't need to worry about Davis because we could play him at forward if we wanted to.
Yeah.
And like I want late night bullet Jokic if there's no Murray.
Okay.
So like which I could honestly in theory just util because they're an island game.
Right.
I just wouldn't have pivots obviously in that scenario, but so yeah, I'd probably have Drummond in 1 of 10.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'd probably be 2 for me. I just think that there's some leverage there, knowing that what his role is anyways, and then if Brooklyn's playing that big,
they played listen in the second quarter. I'm just looking at it now. In the second quarter of this Washington game, their lineup, John, was Cam Thomas to start the second quarter.
Yeah.
Cam Thomas, Jalen Wilson at the 2, who is 6'9".
Yeah.
Noah Clowney, Trendon Watford, Nick Claxton.
That is start the second half of this. So like,
dude, that's insane.
yeah.
That's an insane lineup.
Is Chicago missing anybody today?
No, they're probable. Io and
Okay.
Caruso,
Okay.
they're both probable to play.
I don't know, man. Drummond's super.
I know he is. I know, like I can see the wheels turning. Like you're figuring out a way.
I mean, it's a tournament. He's a tournament play, but like
he is.
Dude, he's been such a monster this year when given playing time.
He has.
All right, let's get a lineup built for everybody. Again, roster lock at 7:00. I was hoping maybe dragging this out a little bit, we would get the Lakers news.
No news whatsoever.
None, zero. So that said, where are we beginning the builds here today, James?
Bagley, Rupert, Jalen Williams, Isaiah Joe.
Bagley. Can't spell his name for the life of me. There we go.
BAG.
Jalen Williams, Isaiah Joe, Rupert. Of course, he's going to be that way.
Now we have $1 jillion to spend.
76-75. Did you want Brunson? Or you wanted to wait on the Joker, but then you're kind of...
We don't have to wait on the Joker. We could just... Because why would we play the Joker when we could just play Delano Banton?
Sure. Banton. 82. 3 players.
AD. I want to play... I want AD at the forward. I want to play AD if he's going to...
If not, you just play LeBron.
Yeah. Jabari Walker gets you like $1 million for your last guard spot.
99.
Just Brunson.
Yeah, Brunson. All right, example lineup for everybody here. Banton, Rupert, Joe, Williams, Bagley, Brunson, Davis, and Walker.
Or we pivot to Giddey from Banton. One of the two.
Do you have a preference? I mean, Banton has been crazy.
Yeah. We have 3 Portland. That's the only reason I said it. I was a little scared.
I'm happy moving off Jabari Walker.
Okay, we can. I think he's going to be in for like 30 minutes tonight.
Yeah. Go Wiggins, Charlotte.
Yeah, Wiggins is actually a pretty good one.
All right, Banton, Rupert, Joe, Jalen Williams, Marvin Bagley, Jalen Brunson, Anthony Davis, Andrew Wiggins. Example lineup for everybody. Again, if you haven't already, Anthony Davis will play. LeBron James will play. Does that impact anything you're doing here?
Nothing.
None. Okay. Guys, if you haven't already subscribed to Fantasy Alarm, as we mentioned, we got a deal going on right now. Oh, wrong deal. That's Underdog. There we go. Right deal. We have a deal with Underdog as well. Promo code Alarm gets you 100% up to $100. So you can use that. Or you can become a member of our All-Pro subscription package here. Promo code Let's Win at checkout saves you 20% off the first month. Scan the QR code. Go to fantasyalarm.com/win. Get access to every piece of premium content we have for all sports, not just the NBA, but the MLB DFS season is kicked off. NHL still going on. PGA, MMA, NASCAR, you name it. We cover it all behind the All-Pro subscription. Right now, you get that for 20% off the first month there using promo code Let's Win at checkout. So again, scan that QR code. Go join the family today. Start winning with us. Guys, good luck this weekend. We appreciate you all tuning in, Samson. We appreciate you being here, my friend. We'll be back on Monday, everybody. Get us in the Discord. We'll talk to you later.